Hello to everyone, I'm Ana Tafoya, and today in Energy Capital News, we'll be talking with Michael Robinson, Associate Director of Microgrids Distributed Solutions at EDF Renewables. Why should companies get familiar with microgrid solutions? Why are they essential for building resiliency? Michael will talk with us about it, providing us more detail about the microgrid solution project that EDF Renewables is currently developing for the Port of San Diego, California. How could you describe a microgrid and what is it for?
There's a lot of different terms. Microgrids as a term's thrown around quite a bit. But I like to start with the Department of Energy, their definition. It's defined as a group of interconnected loads and distributed energy resources with a clearly defined, electrical boundaries that acts as a single controllable unit with respect to the larger utility grid. Microgrid can operate in grid-connected as well as disconnected modes. And so, that's pretty technical. When you actually look into it, though, a diesel generator on a simple switch that can island the facility would actually be considered a microgrid. There's nothing really new about that, though. It's certainly not innovative or sustainable by any means. And other than in a very few locations in the US, can you actually run a diesel generator during grid-connected operations to reduce utility bills? So I like to take a slightly different view on it, where a microgrid is a clearly defined electrical system with boundaries that can isolate itself from the utility grid, but it also includes two sources of generation, and my preference is one being renewable. And so with our renewable asset, we can operate during grid-connected operations to reduce your utility bill, as well as then during microgrid or off-grid or power outage islanded operations. You can still use that solar and maybe storage or diesel generator to provide backup power. So a critical component of this is, the energy consumption or the load, as well as then the generation, but also obviously the energy management system that's going to be the brains of the operation, that's going to generate those savings during grid connected operations, as well as then manage the island during an outage.
And in this regard, could you tell us more about the microgrid solution EDF Renewables is developing for the Port of San Diego?
The Port of San Diego has a 700 kilowatt, 240 kilowatt hour battery system that's going to be located at their 10th Marine Avenue terminal. It's going to be controlled by the ABB eMesh control platform. And it's also in the future going to integrate a rooftop solar system. So they've got those two components of renewables, as well as then the option to potentially hook up an emergency generator if necessary. It's at the 10th Marine Avenue terminal, which and will be supporting, security infrastructure like lighting, as well as a jet fuel storage system for the Navy. The San Diego Port's actually defined or been designated as one of 17 strategic ports in the U.S., where we're actually supporting the U.S. Military Transportation Command Center, as well as the Military Sea Lift Command. And so the Navy in San Diego is a huge presence in our community, and so it's a great opportunity for us to support their activities and provide security as well as sustainability for the local community.
Michael, for EDF Renewables, what were the main reasons for developing a microgrid solution at the port? For instance, what are the needs and goals you're helping to address through this project?
The Port of San Diego project's part of a California Energy Commission grant program, where it's going to be a great example to demonstrate the ability for microgrids in California, as well as, set an example for across North America of how you can reduce utility bills with sustainable renewable sources, as well as then provide that backup power solution. So because it's part of the EPIC program or the grant program, we're going to be releasing some reports on the best practices, on the operations of the system, so that we can really share what we learned from this project with the larger community. It's also an opportunity to show how microgrids can provide a facility reliable power and kind of independence actually from the grid, not being reliant on it, as well as independence in control over their costs of their utility bills over the long term. Solar system's going to operate for 20, 25, 30 years and provide the marine terminal with a forecastable projection of cost of energy, as opposed to relying on the utility that can adjust rates up to 5 times a year. So it's a great example for microgrids and a great example for long-term commitments to sustainability.
From the other perspective, what are the main benefits, in addition to helping during outages, that business users can obtain from implementing microgrid solutions at their facilities?
Everybody's probably pretty familiar with solar systems, how they can generate savings by reducing energy consumption from the utility grid. Storage systems provide additional value in different markets in different ways. In California, it's around peak shaving, as well as energy arbitrage, shifting the power out of the middle of the day into the expensive on-peak period in the evening. And then, there's some demand response programs. In other states, it kind of varies on how the battery system saves money. The best part is we're using these systems that generate utility savings, as opposed to also provide backup power, as opposed to a diesel generator, where there's a ton of upfront cost with a diesel generator, and then it just sits there idly, only waiting for that outage to occur. And definitely doesn't generate any utility savings in California and most places in the US, but it also arguably costs a lot of money. There's regular O&M that has to be done. The fuel needs to be run through there periodically and replaced. And so it's a pretty underutilized asset, not to mention it's certainly not sustainable and, dirty asset. So we're leveraging the best of kind of both worlds with solar and storage in the microgrid, in that we can actually operate it during an outage, whereas, traditional solar and storage solutions turn off during a power outage. And so by able to leverage that solar and storage during the outage, we're reducing the fuel costs from the grid, as well as then during an outage from the diesel generator by leveraging that solar and storage, and increasing the utilization of that asset as opposed to the diesel generator, which is very underutilized.
Finally, Michael, from your perspective, why would it be necessary for organizations, companies, and even governments to get familiar with microgrid solutions in their sustainability and reliability efforts?
A lot of people will jump, to the big reason that there's just been an increasing power outages as a result of extreme weather events. So it's costing businesses billions of dollars in losses every year, either from losing product or reduction in productivity. And we're seeing wildfires in California, but also now in Colorado. So these extreme weather events are increasing in frequency, as well as their ferocity, I guess you could say, or the danger to the community. There's an example of in the Northeast, for example, there used to be power outages a lot during the winter, mostly because of snow on power lines, causing outages. However, now we're seeing that the Northeast is experiencing actually more outages during the summer as a result of these strong storms or hurricanes that start down in Florida, where that's nothing new, but then actually travel all the way up the East Coast, causing massive power outages all along the way. And so, like I said, we're seeing an increase in these extreme weather events that's causing outages. And as a result, microgrids are a great solution to that. However, I'd also pose that microgrids provide the second benefit of integrating those renewable resources and kind of taking on two problems at once, not just providing backup power, but also addressing the core issue of climate change, and how by leveraging solar and storage more, we can reduce the diesel generator runtime, which is creating GHG emissions during that outage. And so as a result, directly impacts the core root of the problem of climate change that's causing these extreme weather events. And so, when we look as a business, look at, or a government looks at kind of renewables, typically they take the long-term view of 20 or 30 years. And so as we look forward in time and seeing how much we can save on the solar and storage, we should also consider over that timeline how much we think extreme weather events are going to increase. If we look back over the same timeline of 20 or 30 years, how much have extreme weather events increased over that time period? And if that trend was to continue over the next 20 or 30 years, how much more issue are we going to see with not just the extreme weather events, but also increase in, diesel fuel costs, scarcity of fuel during long-term outages. And, if you consider those risk factors, the renewable microgrid component, really makes a lot more sense. And so there is a, upfront cost of installing the microgrid, smart infrastructure as well as microgrid controls. However, there's a much larger cost of coming back in 5 or 10 years time, or 15 or 20 years time, and retrofitting that standard solar and storage with that smart infrastructure to allow the facility to island. And so I would recommend, as governments look out or businesses look over that long-term horizon, they seriously consider that upfront investment because I think it'll definitely pay off. It's kind of a unique question and timing that you ask about this as well, because, the current administration is looking to create jobs as well as invest in renewables and infrastructure. And so microgrids could play a key role in kind of pulling all that together.
Well, thank you very much, Michael, for all this information and for sharing these insights regarding microgrids with us. I don't know, do you want to add something else?
Yeah, I think, EDF is really trying to take a proactive approach to helping the energy industry and customers as well understand the benefits of microgrids. I think that's one of the great things about the San Diego Port microgrid project, is that we will be releasing reports on how and best practices on the performance of the system. And so I think it's we're leveraging our global experience, where our parent company has been operating microgrids internationally for quite a while on the French islands, providing power to remote communities. We're leveraging that experience to bring, the microgrid technology over to North America, where, energy reliability is a new problem, to be quite honest, right? And so that's why there's a need for this new microgrid. We've been doing solar and storage and electric vehicles, for a long time. We're really now just taking that next step to provide that additional resiliency, with those systems that we're already very familiar with, and just to, again, increase the benefits over the long term.